Boom, guys, listen. We're back by the lake. Amazing stuff. Now, today, we're going to talk about power and 48 Laws of Power, the book. All right, you heard about this book? Very popular book, right? I'm going to rip into that. And these broccoli heads, reading 48 Laws of Power, thinking of hot shit. Maybe you read it too, And now you're some schizo. Let's get into it, all right? First of all, I have no issues with Robert Greene, all right? Mastery is one of my favorite books. That's a book by Robert Greene. I actually have a YouTube video that I was going to make a big YouTube video on that book because it's really phenomenal. And so you got to understand that Robert Greene's work is actually not, created through experience. It's actually created through observation, which is a really good distinction. And it's a distinction that not a lot of people understand when they're reading stuff like material in books, on the internet and stuff. A lot of the stuff that you read here and there is just observed things, right? And deductions, if that's the right word, from those observations. So Robert Greene has never held a position of power. That's just something like that, for example. But he has observed and he's looked at, historical things, Versailles, the kind of stuff that went on there, and kind of made his deductions upon that. So that's something to realize when you're talking about this stuff. And just like when I'm reading Mastery, Robert Greene has observed all these greats, like Leonardo da Vinci, for example, and Faraday. And he's made deduction on that. It's like, why, how did they reach mastery? And it's a very interesting book. Really recommend it by Robert Greene. Now, let's get into this 48 Laws of Power thing, all right? Let's get into that. A lot of people reading this, and it's like, yeah, I'm reading this. Yeah, this is funny, I knew this girl, right? She was like, she was into reading a little bit, right? And I asked her, what book are you going to read next, huh? And she was like, I'm going to read this. So it's like 48 Laws of Power. I'm like, why are you reading this? Why are you going to read this, huh? It's like, I don't want to be manipulated. It's like, in what case would this apply to you? Huh? You're a twig, right? You can just pick you up and whoof, right? So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, huh? You see, the thing is, if you're so frail that you can't even defend an idea, if you're physically incapable of defending an idea, then it doesn't matter how much you want to not be manipulated by a certain thing, because it's going to happen by force, right? This looks like a green screen. Why does it look like a green screen right now? That's crazy. But that's truth, right? So it doesn't matter. Like, if you are so obsessed over trying to not be manipulated or manipulating, but you can't actually enforce the very ideas that you hold without trying to put some fucking power play on it, then the last thing you need to worry about is manipulation, right? You need to worry about the little force, the output you have, because there's clearly too little of it. Clearly. If I don't need to manipulate you into thinking that 2 + 2 is 5, if I can just break your head in, right? Then it doesn't matter. I don't need to manipulate you. Force will do it for me, all right? Think about that. Anyways, just an example, because, you can kind of take that example and kind of extrapolate it. Because there's a lot of these broccoli heads right now out there in the world, maybe they're looking at some, listen to this, guys. Maybe they see on Instagram, some of these men masculinity, these faceless pages, they're posting like quotes and stuff. Do you guys know who makes these pages? Right? If I say this, I'm going to get, canceled or something. Right? These are 14-year-old Indians creating these theme pages, I don't know, somewhere. I'm just saying this. I'm nothing against India, okay? I'm nothing against India. I'm just saying this, right? But because they're probably not the best ones to take, advice from. So when I'm doing these reels pop up on your Instagram feed about, this guy, blah, 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 blah. If you be a man, be a man. I saw this. This was funny. Be a man, own the room like your generational ancestors. I'm like, and I looked upon where the account was and stuff. Like, these are people sitting in, the basements, making these theme pages, right? So all this stuff, like, blah, 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 right? If you want a hack, by the way, you can just, go on the account and you can check, like, account-based. You can find out where they're based from and stuff. But anyways, digression. There's a lot of people out there speaking. A lot of people are obsessed with this power stuff. And 48 Laws of Power, the book, right? People are reading into this, thinking they're going to be some power genius, being in power, and they're going to be so good at, this and this and this. And you see the trick... You see, the thing about all this, right, is that most people, they don't even need this stuff. Honestly. Like, there's a lot of good stuff in there, like never outshine the master, for example. In 48 Laws of Power, it says that. Don't do that, okay? But that's something you learn in mastery too. He's kind of saying that the same thing, because that's like a mentorship thing. It's kind of like it is a relationship thing. Like, you don't just stand there and, boast and, try and downplay them. But it's like a lot of people aren't at their stage in their life where this stuff is even relevant. Because a lot of people who's reading this stuff, they haven't even sharpened their swords. Let's be honest, right? They don't even have a sword. They don't even have a license to carry, all right? Let's just do that, figure of speech. So why are they reading this stuff? Why are they reading stuff? Because this is just mental masturbation. Let's be honest, okay? This is mental masturbation. You're thinking that you're gonna walk into a room and you're gonna start scanning it, like you're I'm gonna see who's like in power here, right? You know what that does, right? You become schizo in the head, okay? You become fucking retarded. Let's be honest, okay? If you're walking into every exchange and you're thinking about, okay, how hard is he gonna pull my hand? I'm gonna squeeze his hand a little bit more. I'm in power. Listen, you're retarded, okay? You're fucking retarded. Who walks around thinking like that all the time? Like, one thing is just observing it. One thing is having this thought on your mind all the time. Like, yeah, power. Like, you're retarded? I don't think you know, okay? Because maybe you read this book and you thought you were a genius. But remember that Robert Greene just observed this stuff from fucking halls of Versailles and all these people that, have these dynamics going on, right? But you walk into a random restaurant, maybe you're to enjoy a meal, maybe you walk into fucking McDonald's, right? And you're like, oh, who's in power? Who's in charge? What the fuck are you doing? Right? Go read something else. Jesus Christ. Now, you see, the thing is with this whole power thing, is that the more you obsess over it, the less in power you are. Because here's the thing, right? Let's say you come to me and you're like, okay, I'm going to squeeze Notorious Nico's hand really hard, right? To show him who's the boss, right? And I just say, okay, go for it. I don't care. Where's the power gone, huh? There's no power, so the thing is that when you're reading the stuff and you're walking through life and you're trying to impose your power or whatever, even though you can't even carry a fucking sword or, that's figure of speech, by the way. I don't know how to fucking carry a sword. I'm pretty good with lightsabers, though I was when I was a kid, Fucking Notorious Skywalker. Notorious Skywalker. So... What the fuck? Now I lost my train of thoughts, right? That's funny, the toy Skywalker. Right! Let's get back on it. When you're walking around and you're trying to do all this stuff, with the funny stuff that you read in 48 Laws of Power, it's self-sabotage. That's what it is, all right? Let's be honest, it's self-sabotage. I can't go back to the thought I just had about where I was going with this point. But when you're reading this, and you're so focused on having the power and all this stuff, you're wasting energy. Okay, you're wasting energy. And I was making a point, the thing about not caring is like, if you're so obsessed with this thing, and someone doesn't care, where's the value really, right? Where did all that stuff go? Truly, right? Think about it. This is your focus, okay, how pulling the handshake and who does this and who does that, then, but someone doesn't care. What happened? Woof, it's all fugazi. It's fugazi. That's what it is. It's fugazi, right? Especially at, we're just walking around to the lake, right? So it's like, who gives a shit? One thing is observing it, right? One thing is obsessing over it. Usually there's a lot of stuff you obsess over, you become in a certain way, right? But you make it a whole identity, and so you just scream this insecurity of yourself when you go in there and you try to scan the room. Who's this funny? This is fucking funny, okay? There's this dude on Instagram called, what's his name? Abula Saleh or something? And they got found out that he, did some stuff when he was a teenager. He did some nasty stuff, right? And he talks all about that. When I walk into a room, people know I'm there. I could take someone out. I don't know what his name is, but it's fucking hilarious. That's what we do. That's what we say to that. Jesus Christ. So I don't know. It's all this other stuff you read. And it's all the stuff you can focus on. Because if you don't have anything to show up with, then it's like, because I see this, people are scrawny, they're skinny, and trying to build themselves up, but they're looking at the wrong thing, right? They're looking at 48 laws of power. I want to learn 48 laws of power, right? Before they've even touched the weights. It's like, that's not going to do it for you, okay? Listen, chill out, broccoli head. You need to learn this first. You need to learn this first. Maybe it becomes relevant at some point. Maybe, right? But it's not something that you need to obsess over. It's not something that you need to walk around and actively think about, right? And I understand, relationships quite well. When that comes to group dynamics, I understand hierarchical. I can never fucking say this word, English is my first language. Hierarchical, you'll understand, right? You understand. So I understand these dynamics quite well. Man. That's because of my military thing. I understand when I was, because I was never like a officer or anything, but just a specialist. So I understand that there's dynamics there in terms of hierarchical status and stuff like that. But the reason those understand, and I understand where to place myself on this. I'm not obsessive over it, because I understand when I'm on the football team, for example. I understand in the military, I get told what the fuck to do, right? And I do it with excellence. So everyone serves their place, everyone serves their purpose. So this is not the same, right? To be quiet and do as you're told, right? When it comes to the team performing at their best, not by the government, all right? Don't shut up and do what you're told because they told you to take a fucking vaccine, all right? Don't do that stuff. I highly recommend you don't do that, right? If you see my video on the COVID vaccine, go check that out, right? But it's like, it's fucking hilarious, right? It's fucking hilarious because everyone's looking for the easy way out, right? They're looking for the easy way. Okay, how can I get this as fast as possible? It's like, because they're reading this, and they're reading into that, and reading into this, all this stuff, and it's like, how can I get this faster? How can I do this? Faster? And what dumbfounds me every time? I'm like, how can I get the fastest way possible? With anything, really? But this is a prime example. It's like, why would you want it the fastest way possible? Why not just fucking earn it, right? That's what, dumbfounds me every single time. It's like, why would you want 6-pack in 6 weeks? Why would you want that, right? Huh? And okay, let's say 1 week. Why would you want a 6-pack in 48 hours even, right? Why would you want that? It doesn't serve you any purpose, right? Because the purpose is becoming the fucking weapon. That's what serves you, actually serves you, right? It's not actually it's not actually being the weapon, it's becoming the weapon that serves you. You understand that? So when you're trying to shortcut it and you're trying to, look for things that kind of boost the process but are outside of the process itself, of the actual actions of doing the stuff, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. Because who knows, right? You start to identify yourself with the feeling of progress. Well, there's not much going on there. Because one thing is the knowledge we have, and one thing is the knowledge we use, but another thing is the lived experience. And that will always be much more powerful, because it's unique. You understand that? It's unique. It's a paved road, only by yourself. And that is true power, knowing like that you had this experience and this is the truth, right? That's why studies are complete bullshit, right? A lot of the times, especially in this fitness stuff, because it's like, yeah, you can tell me to build more muscle with 46 reps, but hey, listen, I've been training for 13 years and I've been doing half reps and drop sets every single time, and I've more muscle than you. So it's like, it doesn't really matter what you say, right? Because I don't care. Again, there is, I don't care. If you don't care, then there's no power, right? If I don't care, if you try to force me in the COVID vaccine or not, I'm just going to, leave. Then it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. Try it. But it's beautiful, right? Because I've been reading Emerson, Ralph Waldo Emerson, and he says this in The American Scholar. I believe that's the essay. That, we're taught that scholars and people of knowledge, right, are these people who they don't have a lot of physical capacity to them. There's not a lot of capacity to them. I don't know how we kind of phrase it there, but this is a fallacy, because one can easily see upon someone else if their experience is lived or not. It's funny too. I'll say this. I did an experiment just the other day, like quite thorough, right? I put different faces inside of ChatGPT, and without any context for the ChatGPT, and I put just the face, box face, right? There's some discrepancies in the studies, but I've noted all of them, and so it came back with a 70.6 match in terms of the scenarios, in terms of like what was true about them or not. 70.6% just because of their face. And it said for some faces, right, that they had a lot of maybe anxiety, they had a lot of confidence, they lived by code, they, you know, who would you trust or not? 70.6%, guys. So this is not wrong or anything. By the way, I'll tell you this, I was one of the faces in there. I put my own face and other faces in there, and it didn't know who, right? But it's like, this shit is real. All right, this shit is real. When someone is speaking and you can see, especially on their eyes. Eyes are, you know, the window to the soul. But you can see on people's eyes when they actually have lived experience or not. And there's a lot of people on Instagram right now. They're posting content about hardship and all this stuff. But first of all, they're fucking skinny pussies. All right, nothing wrong with being skinny, you know. Okay, I was skinny once, but that didn't mean I was posturing like some big dog talking about hardships when I've been in the gym for 6 weeks. Okay, so a lot of people out there trying to talk, right? Look at their eyes, right? The eyes never lie, Chico. The eyes never lie. They've never lived it. And it's a big thing, because Ralph Waldo says this, because no experience is real experience, it's less lived. He says something like that. And it's so true. It's so true. And so when you're going back, I want to tie this back now to what we're talking about. When you go out there and you try to, you know, live it up with the 48 laws of power and try to shake someone's hand a little bit harder, then think about that. People see it. Everyone sees it, right? As soon as I see some of these posters, you know, trying to pull on the fucking these moves on me, I'm just like, what? Get the fuck out of here, right? We don't do that stuff here, right? We're about authenticity, right? Genuinity. I don't know if genuinity is even a word. And we're about respect, right? For people who put in the work, who lived their word, and continue to do so every single day, all right? Strength and honor. God bless. Thought that was a cool note to end on right there. I hope you guys are having a good one, right? I'm working on a lot of stuff in the background, right? So, hope you guys are doing the same too, getting after it every single day. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. New return to Gorilla Vlog soon. And that's it for you today, all right? Take care! Da, 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 da. God bless, boo!